Hey everybody, this is Marcia O'Connor with the O'Connor Group. Here we are back again with Top 3, where entrepreneurs share their secrets and their mistakes. Because who doesn't have a few mistakes out there? So today I'm very excited to have a friend of mine from the Florida state. His name is Jason Roy, and he is one of the partners with Prime Benefit Solutions. So today we're going to talk about how he got started, what's happening out there, how to retain your people, how to use benefits into that regard, and so much more today. So Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So Jason, let's just go right to it. How did you get started and when?
I got started about 5 years ago in the world of Medicare. I was an entrepreneur with a former business. I owned multiple ice cream stores in Tennessee. And I realized that I wanted to do something more after 17 years of that. And I figured I'd get into the insurance business, having been a small business owner. And my parents were aging into Medicare at the time. So I thought, well, this is a perfect time to learn a new industry. So I started with United Healthcare, and I was the top salesperson my first year. Then I was recruited by another firm, independent firm called an FMO, to become a recruiter and find people like myself and teach them how to do the business how I did it. Then we branched off from there, a small group of us, and we started doing life and Medicare. And then my current business partner now, him and I started diving into the group health business. And we both realized we could help a lot more people a lot quicker by going after the groups. And we noticed that there is a pain in the group industry. That pain is, people typically think of group insurance as what's known as the BUCAs, your Blue Cross, United Healthcare, your Cigna, your Aetna. It used to be Humana at the end, but they're pulling out of the group business altogether. So companies, every year they get their 6 to 20% increase, and it's a pain point, and it typically ends up being higher premiums, higher deductibles, and a lower amount of care. So after incurring that for a few years, the CFO, the CEO, the COO, and the HR directors, they start scratching their heads thinking this line item has gotten too big within our spreadsheet. We got to find a different way. Our employees are our most important asset, and they're getting lower levels of care at a higher price. So there's been a big shift in the industry and some innovation because of those pains. And now there's coming on board different ways of doing things in order to acquire and retain that talent. And they do it through benefits. And instead of making that line item a liability, they've turned it into an asset, because it costs twice as much to replace someone once they leave, because you have to pay someone to train them while you're paying them to learn how to do the job. So that's an additional cost that people sometimes don't think about. So people have gotten creative. A lot of companies are comfortable with the fully funded plan.
Yeah.
Fully funded plan, they're going to kiss away that money that doesn't get used. And then you have true level funded plan. Well, they can get some of the money back from the claims bucket that doesn't get used. Right. They may pay a little bit more, but they'll have some money come back to them. And then you have the self-funded, and that's kind of where things are shifting to. Self-funded at first can sound a little scary because they feel like they're going to be on the hook for a major catastrophe type situation. And typically, the money that's saved during 5 years, you're going to have 1 year where you're going to have high claims. But the savings gathered in those other 4 years more than pays for that 1 year and leaves a surplus. And with these self-funded plans, the employee gets a concierge level service of a care practitioner where they have access to these people. And as far as there's one model, it's called reference-based pricing. Well, they'll come in and negotiate and usually give 150% above Medicare.
Yep.
Okay, that's one model. And then there's another model where they head off any sickness within that group by giving everyone an executive level physical. And those executive level physicals can run anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
No additional cost for everyone in the organization. Because they find if they can do a scan and catch cancer 5 years or detect it 5 years earlier than they would have, and they head it off, well, they're going to save lives and in process save pain and money, and the company ends up better in the long run. Then you also have another one that does the same thing, but they not only use reference-based pricing, they do direct billing and direct negotiation before any type of procedure happens. And what the really exciting thing is about that is you get control back of the healthcare for the company, because they are able to manage the claims data as well as the prescription data. Okay. And when they can manage that data, that's usually the golden grail of the buka companies, because they don't want you to see that.
Right.
Then you know what they're making and you know the numbers. Okay. But if you move to that self-funded plan with reassurance as a backstop for safety, take control of that claims data, which is a couple-year process, save hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, depending on the size of your company, instead of just letting that money go into the shareholders and stockholders of those large corporations. And you're getting lower costs and a higher level of care, which is the exact opposite of what everyone's been used to these last few years and conditioned to have.
So Jason, I'm going to pull you back. My entrepreneurs are more likely under 100 employees. And, they're looking for guidance, and the self-funding is great. I wouldn't say a lot of people use it under 50 employees. They don't know enough about it, but what are some of the other areas? Because I know you could talk about all the pieces, but you got into your business, you see a growth, you see things happening now, things shifting in regards. So talk about some of those shifts that you've seen. One of the funniest things I just read, well, not really funny, but I thought it was funny being a female, is like the top 10 new employee benefits that people are looking for. And number one was menopause leave. And I nearly cracked up because I'm like, how do you, it ranges. I'm like, how did that even come up?
Medical what leave?
Menopause leave.
Menopause leave.
Right. There isn't any. But that's something that has been that people are talking about now. And I just thought to wow, that's interesting. Or the 4-day work week, which we've heard all the time. Or workplace boundaries, meaning you can't connect, you can't send me messages after 5 o'clock, and you can't use my personal cell, and I can't respond to you. These are my hours, and it's really changing compared to just medical and dental and all. But you want to, we just offered pet insurance this year, and it's a voluntary benefit. Oh my gosh, people were so happy that we provided pet insurance, and but things like that. So how can you suggest and help these entrepreneurs get the best out for their employees?
Okay. So there has been a wide range of extra ancillary benefits that can retain and acquire your employees, because as everyone knows, in the last 10 years, most employees are switching jobs every 3 years. They consistently do it, and they're jumping ship. So how do you get those employees not to jump ship and to stick around? Well, you need to think outside the box. And one of the things that you can do that we provide is giving a survey to your employees, finding out what's important to them, and then structuring the benefits you offer them around that survey. And it's an anonymous survey. So you just take the statistics. You don't have anyone's name and this is what they want. You do it as a collective, as a whole, and then you package it that way. It can run anywhere from pet insurance. There is not accident, but if your car breaks down insurance, and it's a benefit from the company. Where, your car broke down, take it in, we got you covered. Okay, for $30 a month. Okay, you're not going to miss work. You're still going to be able to take your kid to the doctor. Your life is going to keep moving the way you want it to keep moving. Okay. Another one of these items that's been coming on hot lately is the financial wellness and coaching that's provided by the employer to the employee for as low as $20 a month. As an example, there's a heating and air company, and you had a couple people in there, well, more than a couple, that were concerned about retirement, and they're concerned about saving for their kids' schooling. Well, they went in and they looked and they talked to the people and they're like, well, you guys are getting your work orders every day. And you're going down to the local convenience store. You're loading up for your snacks and your coffees and your sodas and your lunches for the day. And you're spending $25, $30 a day. When in actuality, you should be going to the grocery store, bringing your lunch in for $8 a day, and using that money you were spending every day as your retirement or your school fund.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the financial wellness coaching. That's just a minor example. I mean, people like to find a way in order to invest in gold and silver or get rental property as a passive income. It's a wide variety of areas in which you can help people. Another way that employers are providing certain benefits is the flexible savings account.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the employer has the ability to choose the row and items that are allowed for the flexible spending account, but it can be a wide variety of things.
Right.
I mean, the sky's the limit on what you want. It could be exercise, it could be daycare, it could be all sorts of things. So these are different ways in order to retain your employees. But first, you got to figure out what's important to them,
Right.
and then customize it to that. Another important benefit is a medical bonus. And the medical bonus, people think of that's only for executives. Well, no, that's not true. They have 17 different levels of medical bonus. So this is a tax advantage for the employer and the employee. Because you can say, all right, we're going to give you $1,000 medical bonus. Well, the employer doesn't have to pay taxes on it. Okay, and then the employee is very nominal. In some states, zero to pay for that. But they can use that for those deductibles and those premiums and those RX costs. Because as an employer, you give somebody a $5,000 bonus, that's going to be gone in maybe a few months. And it's out of their mind. Whereas if you give somebody a medical style bonus, it's typically used 60 times a year. And every time that employee uses it, it reinforces, man, this company's really taking care of me.
How do you get away with that though? Because I was always told, being a former accountant, that you can't say if you give extra money to somebody besides the medical program you're paying for, this is an additional cost. How do you call it a medical? Is it that
it has to be used for medical. That's all it can be used for.
But you can call that, so it's not included as additional income. It's just a bank bonus for them.
Yes.
Wow. When did that happen?
In the last couple of years.
I've never heard of that yet.
About 3 years now. What's that?
Wow, I've never heard of that one yet.
Yeah.
I was always told that you can't give them additional money to pay for like a stipend, and for the sometimes I had one client that paid each individual policy that they chose for themselves because they didn't have a medical plan. But that's interesting. But does it have to be a certain amount? Can it only be 1,000? Could be higher than that?
Oh no, it goes up to 10,000. Okay, so if you want to give an executive a $10,000 bonus, you actually have to give them like 14 and a half, 15 because of taxes. But if you give them the $10,000 bonus, they can have, larger amounts, up to $50,000 in medical benefits for $10,000. So first time I heard it, I'm like, wait a second,
right?
This sounds too good to be true. How are you guys pulling this off? And then they gave me case study after case study, and I'm like, this is some neat stuff. But like anything else, it's about getting the messaging out and educating people that these things are available. Because let's face it, most companies, they're looking at their medical and their benefits, maybe for 14 to 30 days once a year. Other than that, they're like, all right, we're locked in. It's January 1st. We'll look at it again next September. And then you try breaking through to be like, hey, there's other programs available. That's the biggest obstacle.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. Okay. I'm always a devil's advocate in most things anyways. So what's the incentive of having a really good medical plan if you could then basically give each, does it have to be the same amount per person, or can it be different amounts per person on your team?
It has to be per class. So it has to be executive, managers, and everyone else. So but there's 17 of those different categories.
Okay.
So everyone's going to fit into a category.
So it's a certain amount per category.
Correct. That's it. It's done by class.
But you'd have to give it to everybody in those classes.
Not necessarily.
Ooh, how
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. I'll send you some information about it. It's pretty
That'd
interesting.
be great. I would love to see that. That's the
Yeah.
first time I've heard of that. It's very interesting stuff, which is really cool.
So
But this,
for those smaller companies that have 5 people,
yeah,
you can help them some. Okay.
yeah,
You get to 20 people, you can help them even more.
yeah,
And then the 50 threshold is kind of where you can really get into ways to pay for those benefits.
right.
There are IRS programs that actually put more money into the employee's check and give the employer a tax deduction of $573 per year per employee. And it also has a level of virtual health care with that, where you can call the doctor.
Nice.
The only caveat to this is once a quarter, you have to answer some health questions, such as, did you know you need to drink X amount of water per day per body weight? Do you know you need to get so many steps in? Do you know you need to stay away from these foods and eat more of these foods?
Right.
So 5 questions takes, maybe a minute to do. And that keeps them in line with the rules of the program. And it's actually an IRS program.
Right.
Yes. And there's other creative ways for those people who need to avoid the Part A and Part B penalty that we're having to deal with, that can get creative as well and still stay under budget.
Right.
We plenty of restaurants, because restaurants have a tough time because the profit margin is so low. Maybe they have multiple locations, they've hit the 50-person threshold. How do I make this work in my budget? I can't afford $600 a person and still make any money.
Yep.
Yeah. So there are creative programs for all size companies that want to offer some benefits. We have ERISA-based programs also. ERISA is a law written in the 70s. And if you fit into these certain categories, it qualifies and it won't break the budget. It'll still be able to manage everyone, use it as a retention tool and an acquisition tool, and keep your business above water. If not, accelerate your business because you are retaining those people.
Yeah. Wow. These are great things. And then it's like, I always tell people to start with benefits and start trying to have something as soon as you can, because to me, if you can account for it as part of your budget, if you're going to grow, the only way to do it is like start from day one. Like if you have the 2 employees, obviously get some kind of something benefits and all.
Yes.
And let's talk about not just benefits, talk about short-term disability, long-term disability. What's hot right now? Like what are people really saying, I need to have this? What is that?
Life insurance, right after the health insurance, life insurance. Okay. Group dental and group vision are popular also.
Okay.
Orthodontia has come on strong lately. Okay. People would like to have a family, they'd like to have orthodontics for the children.
Yeah.
That's important to them. Long-term disability and short-term disability became hot topics since the whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
Because everyone kind of knows or heard of someone who had an adverse effect that's still affecting them to this day.
Right.
And to have some disability is very important.
Yeah.
Within the medical field, disability is extremely important. Because, if somebody's making a certain amount of money, they're going to go from $60,000 a month to making $5,000 a month because they were changing a tire and it crushed their hand.
Right.
Well, that's not going to cut it. So you get additional disability for those types of people. Those seem to be the top ones. I mean, critical care, there's some of that. Long-term disability, short-term disability, accidental death and dismemberment. Those are policies that you can give to people that are very economical, but it's a great safety net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then what's that with life insurance? I find it interesting that they expect I always suggest if you get a life insurance policy, have one that you could take with you. You know what I mean? Instead of basically having through the company. So if you leave that company, you don't have it anymore. You know what I mean?
That's in the details of the life insurance. And oftentimes people need to educate themselves as well as read the fine print to see, well, if the employer is paying the premium and you're not contributing anything, most likely that policy is going to be for the employer. Although we do have a manufacturing company here in Florida and they're flipping the bill And if something happens, that family gets $50,000.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are options. People just have to educate themselves as to what exactly they're getting. So there's a wide variety. And then there's also whole life that people can also get.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
which they can become their own bank over time.
And how important is, like, I always tell, we have an HR consulting company. So I tell my people, like, listen, work with your team, make sure the beneficiaries are updated every 6 months. Just take the time, do an audit and all that and all, because I think it's so important. And to make sure that they have all that in order. But like, how do you recommend that to your clients, and how do you make sure that they do it? Because it's not until there's an emergency that they realize, oh crap, I should have took more time to that.
Right. All too often, I found before I got into this business that the group health, most of those people that do it feel as though if I don't get, my phone doesn't ring and they don't have a problem, I'm not gonna rock the boat. Okay.
Yeah.
We take a different philosophy. We feel like we need to check in at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
And it's by checking in once a quarter and reminding them of things and staying on top of it, people are very appreciative. Because they're like, you know what? I didn't think about that. We just hired those 2 new people and I didn't get that beneficiary form. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's the company's responsibility to get that form and hold on to it.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I always make sure I have a lot of people in here who are the employer and they're the entrepreneur, and they don't know what they don't know. And I try to educate as much as possible, but it's really very, 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 very important to make sure that they have that information. And I think sometimes they don't get that sometimes. And I'm always like, oh, you need to make sure all these things are in line, or at least hire somebody to help you out. Like, don't be skimpy, and obviously hire an HR consultant to do all this for you. But I think people forget to do that. And if we do an HR assessment and we go into a place and we ask all these different questions, like, what do you have here and here and here? And it's really fascinating to me when I see basically that, oh, we don't have time for that. And I'm like, no,
Exactly.
it's a very expensive thing to say you don't have time on. Very expensive.
Oh yeah. A lot of times, which can be a challenge, is the HR people, they go with the status quo. Well, this is what they've done. This is how it's been. They seem happy. Don't rock the boat. Well, I think that needs to shift. You need to say, hey, let's set aside an hour. Let's review what you got. Let's see how your retention and your acquisition of talent's going. If it is decreasing, let's take a look at those benefits and let's see if we can't bring them up to a higher standard and help you guys out overall.
Got it. Yep. And then saving money and all too, but it's really an interesting time frame for sure, because I don't know about you, but I can tell you that's probably payroll's 1 and employee benefits is number 2 on my hire them, obviously my rent and anything else actually. So it's really curtailing it.
You mentioned payroll. I've noticed that there's a lot of companies that are small that are with big Goliath payroll companies.
Yeah.
Okay. Small companies need to be with small payroll companies. Otherwise, they are paying way too much for the services and they're just a number and they're not getting the customer service they deserve. I mean, you got 30-person group. Why are you with the big guy? You shouldn't be with the big guy. They don't care about you. They don't know who you are.
Nope.
And if you call, you got a 1-800 number and you don't know who you're going to talk to. It's just a support number. Yep. So we like to marry up companies and get them to fit where they need to fit. There's no reason why a little guy needs to be hanging around with a monster. You need to be with comparable friends.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. Now, your business though does a lot more than just what we're doing here with benefits and all. What else do you do for your clients?
Okay, so we can do a payroll analysis. We do that financial wellness coaching. We have partners with 401k groups. Okay, workers' comp. We have partners that do liability and building insurance, medical malpractice, a wide gamut of things. We have our lane, and then we've chosen the best partners to partner up with. And so we bring a team of people to see what you may need.
Got it.
So like when you're talking about the financial world and the insurance world, those worlds have to stay separate. That's the law. Yeah, you can't mingle those. So we like to partner and help people in a two-way street. Like we can help them with all their benefits that they need, and they can help us with the investment side. So there's really no, and we can also turn people on to PEOs if
Mhm.
that's the way they would like to do things. But when it goes back to the communication part, I wanted to mention about the newer benefits of, I know self-assurance might be out of some people's realm. But they do a quarterly review of where the claims data and the pharmaceutical data is and show where you're saving money and how you can
Mm,
reallocate those funds.
that's nice.
That's very important
Yeah,
because if someone's going out on a limb to try that for the first time, well, they will always want to know, where will I stand?
right.
And if you're
Well,
able to show them this is where you stand and this is the benefit of it and this is where you're going to end up, that and it's a 2 to 3 year process, that's really going to help because those funds that are saved, that can end up turning into more salary for the employees, maybe another production line, maybe bonuses, just a wide variety of items, more ancillary products,
mhm.
pet insurance, and it can strengthen the company over time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, we have solutions. We can help anybody from 3 people to 5,000 people. Our bread and butter though seems to be right under 150. That's just what has come to us, so to speak. I say 3 people because if you have a husband and a wife, you need to have one other employee to qualify for group insurance.
Yeah,
Uh,
people don't get that. I always tell them all the time, like, if you want to get benefits, you have to have two full-time and W-2 employees. That does not include you.
that aren't
And
married.
yeah, right, exactly. That aren't married.
Yeah,
And people are like, oh, that's what it means. I'm like, yeah, but you can do so many things around it. Why it's so important to have someone like you by their side to do all that. Now, you mentioned the word PEO. I get asked all the time, what makes you so different than a PEO? And I tell people all the time, like, listen, the PEO has your benefits, it has your payroll, it has your HR all wrapped up in one. And first, there's a lot of great PEOs out there. We're just different. We're a lot more customer focused. We're a lot more detailed to you. I'd rather give you more. If you're on that growth path, I tell people I don't think you should do that because one day you're going to have to pull away, and to pull away with all that number stuff is painful. So if
right,
you're going to be thinking about massive growth, think bigger than that, but don't go to the big guys too fast. That'd be
right.
expensive. But
Yes,
really set it up like having someone like you, having someone like me tied into them is actually very beneficial because we're going to help them grow and to be strategic with them versus, one-stop shop,
right. So much like you, I can take the pieces of workman's comp. Here's your payroll.
Hmm.
Okay. Here's your benefits. So, and each one is going to give you custom service and support. Or you can
Hmm.
go to a PEO, get a package deal,
Yep.
be a 1-800 number, and end up paying more than you need to.
Ugh, always.
Yeah.
But how do you, I mean, I noticed that because I've recommended PEUs sometimes on people. We do a lot of work with people coming in or companies that are coming into America from overseas. And right now it's like a plethora of people because it's just, yeah, honestly, it's less expensive than it is to have an employee over there right now. And so they always ask us, what do you think? And I said, well, if you're going to be 10 employees for like a year or two, highly recommend the PEO, because it's going to cost you less money. But I would suggest us being a strategic person with you to help you grow and help you build, because I don't necessarily think they always have that kind of person readily at their fingertips and they're not always consistent. And I said, if you want kind of consistency, I would say hire us, but then actually hire them. We can walk you through that. But it is an interesting time period for sure. I think the employee has changed. I think their work method has changed. I think it's getting harder for employers because before it was, if you're salaried, you were expected to work more than 40 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
that was an expectation. Now
Oh, yeah.
that has
And
changed.
you were expected to be in the office.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And God forbid I ask my team to come in the office. I mean, they do once in a while, but if I had make them right now, they'd be like, "What are you doing? Do you talking to me?" And it's just interesting. So we try to make the best and most comfortable place. We have a really great office here, but I don't
Yeah.
think we're there
The
yet.
COVID thing changed things. When everyone was sent home, they got comfortable.
Yes. But what they
Yeah.
don't realize is that, us being a billable group, all the billables out there, our billables overall have gone down because they're not working as many hours as they used to. But yet all of our expenses have gone up and they want more salary, they want more of that stuff. And I'm like, okay, so 5 years ago we could do this. And now it's like here, so we can't do as much. And it's a unless you start charging more prices, well, we did that too, but you can only do that for so long. And so it's been
I think you
interesting to
just
see that,
justified why they need to come into the office.
right? Yeah. Well, that's still up here. It's so funny. I think in Florida, a lot of you guys are back in, where up here in Pennsylvania, I'd say it's like 50-50. New York, a
Really?
lot are back in. I think it really depends upon what city you're at. Um, some of them haven't ever left really. Whereas up here, it's still like, I'll come in here. Do I have to come in? It's raining today, can't come in.
Oh,
It's really pretty fascinating. But hey, as long as the work is done, I'm not really gonna hem and haw about things, but I try to get people together at least once a quarter to see
oh
each other,
yeah.
because once we're all together, I think people really miss each other. And I also think that wellness thing you mentioned, that's a hot thing. I think a lot of people are very lonely being at home so much.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's also very bad for their psyche. So it's trying to get people to come back in, and they radiate, they're positive, they're pumped up. It's quite different than them being home all the time. But
Having
sometimes
those
you got
personal
pull.
relationships, I think we've found in the last few years is more important than ever
Oh yeah.
because everything's done with email and texting.
Yeah.
And those can be misinterpreted so easily
Yeah.
by tone and by language and not getting the message across that I was being sincere. Sorry you took it that way.
Yeah.
And then everyone's sensitivity level goes up.
Woo.
Like you said, their mental health is coming down.
Yep.
That personal touch and being able to sit across the table from people, I think really needs to come back.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're an entrepreneur, and so you've grown this company. You know what's like one thing that you wish that you hadn't done, and you're like, oh, do whatever you guys are doing, you're entrepreneurs out there. This is what I wouldn't have done. What is that?
The biggest thing is much like getting married to someone, picking the right business partner.
Mm,
Okay. And the biggest item in picking that business partner is knowing where they are financially in their head. You do not want to be financially with somebody who is just spends and spends and spends and hopes that it's going to happen eventually.
hmm
Hoping and praying, and it's okay that we run up all this debt.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you are on the same mindset financially with somebody and how you're going to make money, spend money, save money for rainy days. I think that was probably the biggest one ever.
Well, it's a biggie, especially when you have
Oh
a
yeah,
partner, because you got to keep in mind it's a 50-50 shot of making
right.
decisions and everything else. And, you know, um, I was always told a long time ago, don't have a partner because, you are, I don't think I'm bossy. I think I'm more like I have high expectations. And if that person doesn't work as long as you and hard as you and all that, you're never going to be happy and satisfied. I'm like, they're probably right, in the long run. And,
And,
but so it's interesting.
and also picking somebody who you complement one another. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
Okay. And that's a great thing about Tim and I is I'm good at certain things and bad at them, and he's good at the bad thing that I'm bad at, and he's
Yep.
good at other things. And you have to be complimentary of one another.
Totally agree. I know it's so interesting. And what about successes? Like you had said, hey, this is something that really worked for us. Something to get out there, get visible, or even about marketing and all. What was that?
Taking a huge call to action. Okay. So I don't care what your product is, it's a
hmm
numbers game. Okay. If you want to make X amount, then you have to talk to 50,000 people in
Yep.
order to get it. Okay. So people will sit and think that, oh, I open a business, my phone's going to ring. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to go and get it, and you got to put up the numbers if you want to be successful.
Right.
Yep.
Boy, is
That
that
would be
true.
the biggest thing right there.
Yep.
Because the more you do, the more mistakes you'll make, the faster you'll learn, the more success you'll have quicker.
True. But the more accountable that you are, and you can constantly show that your accountability, that's a huge thing too. And I always tell
Oh
people,
yeah.
I'm like, you can have any job in this company you want, any job you want. But if you can make 2.5 times your salary, pick the title, have fun. And I
Yeah.
said, let me know how that goes. And I said, until then, that's the job, And I said, you only have so many jobs that fit. I'm like, I get it. I said, but we're here. And I said, and if it's not good enough, that's okay. I will help you get another job, but I can't have you here be unhappy. because that's just not going to work for me too well. So unfortunately.
Also, human nature, I've found that people think that a title means something.
Yes.
And I've figured out your title doesn't mean anything. It's the actions you take and the results and the performance you do.
Yep. Yep.
Just what it is. You know, you can call yourself president, but it doesn't mean anything.
Not really.
No?
Exactly. Show what you got, how much you can produce, what you can say, how, show up to action there. And if you
Right,
have a lot of people I've learned too over the years have always ideas, great ideas, and then very few know how to execute them. Very few.
right, right,
And so I'm always looking for builders and executors. And
right,
because they're really just hard to find. I mean, everybody has ideas. Oh, we should be doing
right,
this and this and this. I'm like, okay, put it together.
right.
Let me see how
And
it goes.
humility and teachability.
Yes. Yes.
Those
And
are
be
those are huge also.
and
Yeah.
be
And being able
coachable.
to say, I made a mistake and I'm learning from it and I'm gonna grow from it.
Yeah,
You
what's
know.
happened with that? People are so afraid to do that nowadays. They are so afraid, especially the younger generation, so afraid of making a mistake. And I always tell people, I'm like, make a mistake, own it, get over it, and move on.
Right.
And I will respect you more because of it. And to say I screwed up, I'm like, cool, because I screw up as
It's
well. And
this
I'll let
thing
you.
right here. This is the thing that made that go away because everyone has a persona.
Oh my God, drives me
And if
crazy.
that persona is broken, well, then they're crushed.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous though. So
It's, yeah,
crazy.
yeah. We need
I
to go
know.
back to flip phones.
Right? Exactly. It's just like, oh my gosh. And the funniest thing, I was like walking yesterday and you see people and they're just looking down and I'm just like, I'm on the right side and this guy is looking down and I'm like, hi, how you doing?
Oh
What's
yeah.
going on? And I'm right here. And I can't move any further over. And he looks up and most like doesn't say anything. It's almost like it's my fault for being in his way. I'm like on the wrong side. And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there like, well, you have a great day too, but I can't move because you're in my way.
Right.
But it's
That
so
happens to
good.
me in the grocery store all the time. And I'm like, hello, hello, you're about to run into me.
Yes. Ta-da.
Or
I know it's gonna be crazy.
when we're in a resort town, we'll go to dinner and I look over and there's all these 20 somethings, 8 of them at a table. None of them's talking to each other.
Oh,
They're sitting there
so
on the phone.
God.
And I'll walk by as on the way out and I'm like, hey guys, put the phones down, talk to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, just get rid of them, And
Right.
I have that thing. Well, I'll bring when I have big Thanksgiving dinner, I'll bring my nieces all over. I have a lot of nieces too. And one year what I did is that here's this puzzle. I said, and your job is to complete this puzzle, no phones for like 4 hours. And I said, get to know your cousins, and I'll give you all $20 each if you finish it before you leave at night. Let me tell you something, Jason. They were determined to finish that puzzle. And it was so great because the four of them just caught up and chatted about life and this and that. And they never had the chance to do that because they all live far from each
Wow.
other. It was, and they got $20 each. They made that puzzle. I mean, they ate so fast. They're like, wait, get back to the puzzle. And it was so cool for them to have that communication. They didn't do any phones for 4 hours. So it worked, but you have to do those things right now because I can't, it's so funny. I grew up with talking to my friends all the time like that, and now it's just they don't have that bond. It's just so different. So crazy.
Yeah, that's the
But
same with adults, I think, also. And then and those young girls or those cousins, they'll never forget that. They'll
never
remember
forget
that
it.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
But even
Absolutely.
office meetings, it should be like you should have a bag or a hanging thing on the back, a shoe rack on the door. Be like, put your phone in there.
Yeah,
Everyone, put your phone in there.
and start talking. That's why I
Yeah,
love always have a like an icebreaker idea. I always have icebreakers ready to go because
yeah,
people are like, well, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, we'll have an icebreaker. Let's talk about this. And they
right.
make them funny and fun, and all of a sudden they're all joking. And I'm like, now we're going to get real juice out of you people today, which is a really good thing. But it's so funny. So what are the two pieces of advice that you would give an entrepreneur in 10 years, trying to make it, trying to move on? Like, what are the two pieces of advice to help them to keep them motivated?
Keep them motivated. You always have to be adapting to your environment. You
Mm,
always have to be growing. You can never get stagnant or stale. And by that, I mean, like you said, you got to think out of the box. I hate that term because it's just become so trendy, but like
yep.
doing icebreakers, um, and being open to mentor and teach other people,
Yes.
because you'll notice that you'll see someone and be able to pull something out of them greater than they think of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're able to do that and help someone grow, it's just so fulfilling, and it radiates, and it's contagious to other people in your organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very contagious, but I think people, they don't always see that, and they're like, no, no, no. And you're just like, no, we can do this, and yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Reviewing as an entrepreneur, you always need to do reviews of all your line items.
Hmm.
Like, we haven't looked at health insurance in 4 years. Well, maybe you should look at health insurance. We
Yep.
haven't looked at our workman's comp or our building liability or our
Right.
liability insurance. Do we have an umbrella? What about our benefits? Why can't we attract better people? Is there something better out there we can offer? Always questioning and trying to grow and be better and reviewing your stuff. I guess it goes back to don't be stagnant and just
Yep.
status quo.
I totally agree. You have to be constantly on top of that stuff. What do you read right now? Do you read books or do you Audible?
Audible, and I'm not good at keeping names in my head. I mean, the power of successful habits, all the 48 laws of power, the psychology of selling.
That's a good one.
Some of those are all very popular, and I like them.
Yeah, there's I'm reading right now, The Art of Possibility. It's
Okay.
very, very cool about how to rethink things and the possibility behind it. It's pretty cool,
Right.
actually. And
Yeah.
and it's a husband and wife author, and so listening to it and hearing their both voices, and one is a conductor, and it uses music in it, and it's very, very good. So always good to hear that. I like books and I like Audible too. So I always ask that question because people will love one or the other. I'm
Right.
finding out, but we're always reading. Like
Yeah.
all the entrepreneurs are always reading because they always want to stay ahead of the game. So at least we
And
try.
also limitations. I think sometimes people think that they're limited to what they can do, and
Yeah,
they put those walls in front of them.
always.
Like, I could just focus on Florida and just go at it for Florida, but why? I mean, my business partner is in the state of Washington.
Yep.
We have connections all over the country. Let's go bigger. Think bigger. Don't think small. Think big.
Always think big.
Yes.
For sure. Well, I cannot thank you enough. Lastly, how do people get a hold of you? Because you had some great information about the benefits, especially about this medical bonus thing. How do people get a hold of you?
Let me my cell phone, 901-270-4974. You can go to our website, primebenefitsolutions.com. And we're easy to find. j.roy@primebenefitsolutions with an s.com, or t.becker@primebenefitsolutions.com. One of us is always available, and we'd be happy to help you and give you a no-cost analysis and see if we can benefit you. Because sometimes we'll look at someone's stuff and go, you know what, you're fine right where you're at, and people appreciate that. So we're more of educators. We don't try to sell anybody something. We try and help them.
It's awesome.
We want to help as many people as possible.
Name of the game. It really is. People buy trust. That's for sure. Well, so good to have you on here, Jason. And
thank you, Marcia.
Congratulations on the success as well for Prime Benefit Solutions. It's awesome. I'm so glad that Chris Cumby, our mutual friend, introduced us. And I just love hearing all the things you have to offer. But again, everybody out there, I'm Marcia O'Connor. This is Top 3, where entrepreneurs share your secrets and mistakes. And today you'll learn so much about your benefits program. So definitely reach out to Jason. He's there. He's available for you to reach out for any kind of questions. This is how you learn. So until next time, we'll see you soon, and take care.